Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas-The Podcast, where our goal is to keep you informed, inspired, and a little entertained on all things diabetes. The information contained in this program is based on the experience and opinions of the Integrated Diabetes Services clinical team. Please discuss any changes to your treatment plan with your personal healthcare provider before implementing.
Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. I'm Gary Scheiner, your host. Today we're going to be discussing entrepreneurism in the diabetes space. I've always been amazed how many people who have a direct connection to diabetes end up developing it into a business for themselves. I've seen everything from adhesive patches to hypoglycemia treatments to accessories and cases and even media that have grown out of having diabetes. Heck, I even developed my own practice out of having diabetes. I don't think it would have happened otherwise. I'm thrilled to be joined by two such entrepreneurs in this space, Eastzer and Naomi Garlick. So welcome, both of you. I want to give you each a chance to introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your background and your connection to diabetes, and also about the business that you've developed. Naomi, why don't you go first?
Sure. Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And I'm Naomi. A little bit about myself. I currently live in New York City, but I grew up outside of Boston, and I was actually born in England, which is where my whole family's from. But unfortunately, I couldn't hang on to my accent. Otherwise, I'd sound much smarter right now. But I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 12 years old. So I just had my 20th diaversary in December. And I guess to celebrate, I recently launched my company, which is called Glow. And my ultimate goal for Glow is to become kind of like a consumer brand dedicated to improving daily management of type 1 diabetes. So anything you can't get like behind the pharmacy counter, I'd like Glow to become sort of like a one-stop shop for those needs. And our first product are Glow Gummies, which are glucose gummies for low blood sugar. There are 4 grams of dextrose-based carbs per gummy, which helps treat a low in a quick and controllable way. They're fast-acting, and they're healthier, tastier, more convenient alternative to the sort of traditional hypo treatments like candy juice and the infamous glucose tablets. So yeah, they taste delicious, I promise. I'm not just biased. And the goal is to make treating lows easier no matter who you are or where you are or what you're doing.
You were kind enough to send us some samples. You know what these reminded me of? There's a candy I used to get at the movies as a kid called Chuckles.
Oh my
They're
God.
like these jelly candies with sugar on them.
Yeah.
They taste just like that.
Perfect.
But these are smaller. And you sell them in bottles, but I really like these 12 packs of the gummies. And the fact that you can zip them closed after you've taken a few is really nice.
Yeah.
And, they're flat, they're easy to carry. I can tell from the look on Justin's face. He's like,
I
where
want
have you been all my life?
Yeah. I wanted to have like a few different packaging options, and definitely one that's perfect for on the go. Like you can throw it in a small purse if that's helpful, or your pants pocket or whatever it is, and they're resealable, so you can, you don't have to use them all at once or whatever. But yeah, we tried to hit all the pain points and get everyone what they were looking for in a solution. So I tried to be really thoughtful about like everything that I put into it. And they're also HSA and FSA eligible as well, which is a nice perk if you have that in your insurance benefits as well.
That is neat. And the flavor, what are the flavors?
We have strawberry, mixed berry, which is my personal favorite, and orange right now. And you can buy them online at glowgummies.com. And yeah, they come in 2 packaging and 3 flavors. And you can get we'll do like a subscribe and save model and things like that, similar to like how you see on Amazon. And you can get like a variety pack. So 2 of each of the bags of each flavor, and, test out which one you like the best and go from there.
Yeah, we'll make sure the link is on our show notes so people can go to your website and give them a try.
Thank you.
So they're not Chuckles, they are Glow Gummies. They're made of dextrose. They really do the job well. So shifting from a product-based business to more of a service media type business, Justin, tell us about yourself and about DiabeTech.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for having me on the show. You've come on my show a few times, and it's cool to be on the other end. So, I think it was 4 years ago that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. At the time, I was a tech YouTuber. So I was reviewing products for smart home, VR, AR, wearables, health trackers. And so that was on YouTube. And at that time, I was feeling pretty ill, and I got diagnosed by a doctor. He was like, "You have diabetes." I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And he didn't really tell me much, just sent me on my way, and I felt really lost. And so eventually he had me start like testing my blood sugar, or I got a new doctor. He had me testing my blood sugar. I was given long acting insulin. I was making these videos on TikTok. I was like, I thought it was cool that my blood glucose monitor sent readings to my phone. I was like, I want to make a video about that. So I put that up on TikTok. I was like, I'm 350 right now. Is that high? And I started, making videos about taking long acting insulin for the first time. And the community on TikTok found my videos, the diabetes community, and they were like, you do not have type 2 diabetes, because that's what he was treating me for. He was giving me metformin and all that. And so they were like, you need to go get tested. You need the auto antibody test. You need to get a CGM and a pump and an endo, all this stuff. After a few of my videos really blew up from all these comments, I was like, okay, I need to do what these people are saying. So I went and got tested, and they were right. I had type 1.5 or LATA, which is treated just like type 1. And so it kind of inspired me to continue creating content as I was learning about the disease and going to an endo or a diabetes educator appointment and taking those lessons learned and just kind of giving them away for free. Every time I had a new experience, which there are many of those, right? Like your first low during a workout, your stubborn high, all this stuff. I started making videos about all of these experiences.
First time you binge after you've had a low and eaten like the whole kitchen.
Oh my goodness. Those were scary moments. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I would talk about that. Yeah. So yeah, I kept putting that stuff out, and it resonated with people, and it was a side project at first. And then after maybe a couple of years of doing it for fun, it just kind of became my 9 to 5, I don't work 9 to 5. I work whenever. But now I have a podcast, YouTube channel, social pages, and a blog and newsletter.
And you, with DiabeTech, you have, you've built a business out of this, and you could have gone a lot of different routes in the media space and the social media space. What made you decide specifically to develop a business around type 1 diabetes?
Well, I think what I realized during this was how strong the community was. And before that, when I was doing all these tech videos, I never really built that foundation. I think community really is what powers most things, especially social media content, is the community behind it. And everyone is just talking with each other in the comments. I don't even have to say anything because they're keeping each other busy. And I also just was getting all of these messages, and I continue to get messages of helping people get diagnosed, people who thought they had type 2 and went and got type 1 because they saw a video I was talking about, or people who feel empowered to talk to their doctor about the pumps they know are available to them, rather than just the pump that their doctor tells them to get. Parents who feel like their children will never live a fulfilling life, seeing my videos in a Speedo at the beach, running around, playing volleyball, right? Something so little, this small fragment of my life that I can just put down, on social or wherever, and have people see it and help them. It's been so meaningful and continues to be, which is why I continue to do it.
Naomi, you could have gone into the breakneck world of food additives or who knows what else. What kind of impelled you into a business in the type 1 space?
Yeah, a lot of what Justin said also definitely resonates with me. But having type 1 for 20 years, I've really gone through a lot of ups and downs with it. And I was diagnosed at 12 years old, which was a horrible age to be different in any way, let alone with something like this. And so I was pretty ashamed of having a disease and that I had never heard of before, and I knew no one else with it. And it took me a long time to come out the other side of that and be confident and open about it. Managing diabetes is a 24/7 responsibility that affects every aspect of life. And I felt like despite how big of a burden it can be, a lot of our kind of day-to-day needs are overlooked and underserved because of our size is relatively small for some of these big companies to really care about. So I felt like a lot of the time the solutions that are made for us more so focus on like the basic functionality and overlook some of the real world usability and comfort and aesthetics. And that dynamic can lead to stigma and reduce confidence, and that causes people like difficulties in just maintaining consistent self-care that we really do need. So I just wanted to build something that creates products for like the daily management in a way that feels more like real solutions than just like additional chores to our already really long list of stuff we have to do. And by doing that, I think it can empower people with type 1 to feel more confident in their daily routines to improve the quality of life while we kind of wait for a cure that I feel like we're always promised is 5 years away. But in the meantime, I'd like to do what I can to help people, especially those younger people who are just diagnosed and feeling really overwhelmed, just feel more comfortable in their own skin.
Daily quality of life matters. It's something I have to remind my patients all the time. We manage diabetes to improve our quality of life now and down the road. And if your quality of life is suffering because of what you have to do to manage your diabetes, you're missing the point. So yeah, we do need better products, better services, better support, more information to live a quality life day in and day out. And since I started my practice, I spend most of my day helping my patients with their diabetes, and then I got to go home and tend to my own. So I'll just lay it out there. Naomi, how do you keep from going batshit crazy over diabetes, just dealing with it all the time, both from a business and a personal standpoint?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's something I wish I had thought of at the beginning of all of this, honestly, because I feel like it kind of just hit me one day and I was like, wow, I am just T1D all day, and it's a lot. I mean, there's definitely positives to that. I've met a lot of really great people, and as someone who grew up without knowing anyone with type 1, it's been really nice to like continue to expand that community and hear about other people's journeys, and you can just always relate on a level that you'll never relate to anyone else on. Like they'll just never fully understand. So I do really love that piece of it. But, I think one big thing for me has been like, as I try to grow Glow's social media presence, the algorithm is now shoving anything T1D related back in my face, and it can be a lot. And there's a lot of people out there who are posting, 98% time in range while eating bagels and pizza all day, and everything's perfect, and it's hard not to always want to compare yourself and wonder, what am I doing wrong? And I think for me, it's been helpful to find and follow people on social media who normalize a bad day and share more of like the realities of type 1. And I also think humor is a lot of the time the best medicine. And there's some type 1 comedians out there that I follow now that I just find so relieving to go and see their stand-up routine about type 1 diabetes. So that's been like a really nice new introduction into my life through all of this. And
love the humor aspect.
Yeah.
I think that it makes everything more bearable and easier to deal with. As a clinical team, we do these food challenges. We'll pick some weird exotic food, and everyone on our team consumes it and sees, how we can manage our blood sugar with it. We get a good laugh. Some of us, our glucose spikes to kingdom come. Other times it plummets to the depths of the earth. And
yeah,
we just try to have fun with that kind of stuff and not take it so seriously.
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's definitely what helps me.
Justin, you lost your marbles a long time ago, but from a diabetes work and diabetes life standpoint, how do you strike the balance?
I have a lot of boundaries when it comes to like my media consumption because I spend all day creating a media for people to consume. I spend my entire day creating content about diabetes, editing stories about diabetes or related to diabetes, writing articles about diabetes tech. Right. The last thing I want to do after like my work day is anything diabetes related. So I don't go on social media. I don't go on my diabetes account, at least. Like I have a personal one, but I don't like that algorithm doesn't have diabetes content. I'm going to keep it that way. I only use like social media for diabetes social media for work to upload, and then sometimes go through it and just kind of like see what people are doing, because I think it's important to see what's trending and what people are talking about. But I limit my use a lot. because I do enough of it. And then podcast wise, no offense to you, but the last thing I want to do after my work day is listen to a diabetes podcast. So I listen to other podcasts about video games and the news and anything that's not diabetes. Even when I see my podcast come up on my stream, I'm like, no, I cannot listen, because I've already listened to it probably twice at that point in reviews. So I'm like, no, I'm not listening to this right now. Sometimes I'll just play it and then be like, okay, cool, I got the download.
All the device companies out there, I'm on a lot of advisory boards, and they always say, nobody's using our software. No one's doing their data analysis. And I have to sit and explain to them, listen, we are people who are living with this insidious disease 24/7. The last thing we want to do in our free time is like, hey, let's go look at our glucose data. That's not the kind of thing we're into. When we're not dealing with our diabetes, we need to get away from it a little bit and not spend even more time on it.
Yeah, another big thing that I changed in my lifestyle, and this is unrelated to my work, is I stopped wearing my Apple Watch, because I found that having the constant connection to my CGM levels, and not just the number or the alerts are great. Like I need the alerts, but being able to open up the CGM app on my watch and see like where my levels are trending, like it's TMI for me. Like I don't need to worry about something until there's an alert. So that's been one way I've removed diabetes from my mental capacity, is like only tackle it when I have an actual alert, not,
Yeah.
be
Naomi,
worried.
do you use an Apple Watch? Do you have the data going constantly in your
I
face?
do. Honestly, I totally hear you, but I kind of like having the watch just so I can look at it quickly. I see the number and move on, versus the opening of the app. And then, I don't know, it helps me a little bit, but it probably would feel like a release to remove it and see the impact it's really having,
It
I see
started
some
as an
people
experiment for me.
Yeah.
Some
I
people
was like,
can't relax unless they have that information. Other people can't relax unless they get away from the information. So it's
Yeah.
all types.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like checking the time. I'm just like, oh yeah, 2:30, and my blood sugar is also 2:30.
Word from our sponsor. Byram Healthcare understands that managing diabetes isn't one size fits all. With a full range of CGMs, insulin pumps, and diabetes supplies from top brands, Byram makes it easy to get what you need, hassle-free, shipped right to your door. And Byram's team of experts helps navigate insurance so you can focus on living your best life. Ready for better diabetes care? Visit byramhealthcare.com/podcast or call 866-692-8024 and select option 3. And now, back to our program.
Justin, has having type 1, that personal connection, has that proved beneficial in developing your business?
Yeah, I don't think I ever would have done this without having type 1 diabetes. I'd still be creating videos about tech devices. Being able to not only talk about, I talk a lot about the tech, but I also talk about that personal experience using the technology and the emotions that come from a low or a high or the stress of different situations. So it's something that people are able to connect to. And I don't think that I would have the success that I have without being someone can, feel connected to, feel less alone, less isolated.
Naomi, I imagine that developing your product line was not just you wake up, you call a manufacturer, and you're out the door.
Yeah.
There had to be 1,000 steps and a lot of steps backwards along the way too. Do you find that having type 1 in some way proved beneficial in that whole process?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like type 1 diabetes has given me the ability to be extremely resilient. And, you constantly have to roll with the punches. There'll be days you have a great blood sugar day, and then days where it totally goes sideways, even though you do the exact same thing both days. And it can be unexplainable and just like come out of nowhere. So it's directly relatable to so many parts of life, but especially in starting a business. I feel like I'm really good at taking setbacks and turning them into lessons, or just not letting it get me down or hold me back at all, and just kind of rolling with the punches in that way, I think is just comes straight from my type 1 diabetes life. And I also think it's made me an incredible multitasker, which has proved to be extremely helpful with managing an ever-growing to-do list with the business. Really get overwhelmed very easily, and I'm able to kind of stay organized. And, I constantly have to wear all these different types of hats and jump in different roles and keep on top of everything. And I feel like it's really equipped me to be good at doing that because I've already been doing, the full-time job of an organ for the past 20 years. So it's helpful to just kind of stay on top of everything and be just an all-time multitasker.
That really resonates with me, the multitasking aspect of it. No, it's one thing to work with patients, but I also have a business to manage and run and personnel to supervise and hire and fire and develop and all this other stuff and budgets it's a lot of multitasking that goes into this. When you talk about taking steps backwards, I'm curious, were there flavors of your gummies that you tried and just found, we are not doing this?
I dabbled with a lot of different flavors at first. Like I thought I was having these incredible ideas of like, well, maybe people want a flavorless gummy because you don't always want to feel like you're eating candy all the time when you're low, like at work or something. I tried a flavorless gummy and I was like, this is a little weird. So maybe we'll go back to the fruit flavor. It was hard to pick which ones I wanted to launch with. And I did like a couple studies to see what were supposedly most popular, but I want to continue to like come out with fun flavors, hear what people want. I would say like another big challenge, which I wasn't totally prepared for, was just getting dextrose into a gummy format, which maybe is why they don't really exist outside of this, but it's hard for like the ingredients you need in a gummy to mix with the dextrose, and that proved to be kind of like one of the biggest challenges for me earlier on and took months and months of formulation to get it figured out, but we luckily figured it out and hopefully got some flavors people like along the way as well.
Did you have to warp the laws of chemistry and physics to get these gummies created?
Exactly. Yeah, something like that.
So, Justin, is there a flavor that you'd like to see?
Guava.
Ooh.
And when I was in Mexico City, there were these guava rolls were just freaking amazing. So
Okay,
that's what
I'll
I'd
write
like to
that
see.
down.
I had some ideas for you. One is peppermint. I've never seen mint flavored tablets. Maybe it's because dextrose is kind of sour to begin with, but
Yeah, I want to try like some more out there flavors and also just not super traditional candy flavors in case that's not what people want. Maybe like a green tea, something
I want
like that.
movie theater popcorn flavor
I would like that
and
too.
perhaps barbecue.
Yeah, we're getting into
Cherry
like
cola.
the Harry Potter. Do you remember those Harry Potter candies where it's like earwax?
But yeah,
Anything.
Well, not the earwax, the
Yeah,
good
we'll leave that
ones.
one out.
Naomi, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in bringing your product to market?
I would say besides just like the actual formulation, a big piece of it was specifically, I think, helping people along the lines of like the education piece where there are different types of sugars and different types of sugars have different impacts on your blood sugar. And it can sometimes be hard to perfectly toe the line between coming across as like a preachy know-it-all while also giving them enough information so that the message does kind of sink in. And I'm kind of realizing more and more that everyone's experience and foundation of knowledge with type 1 is different. You have to be able to speak to a pretty niche market where also each person in that market has a completely different experience, and that can be challenging at times. And just the education piece in all, at least for what I'm doing in terms of why this is a good solution for low blood sugar and why it's different than a candy option, which is a different type of sugar, and how that will rise your blood sugar in different speeds and different peaks and all that. So I found I'll have to tailor it to the audience I'm speaking to. Obviously, like more newly diagnosed people are looking for more information, whereas people who have had it for a long time, you don't want to like jam all this down their throats and then be like, whoa, like I've had this for longer than you. Like I know what you're talking about. So I think it's just being able to be flexible with who you're talking to while also still getting.
There's so much misinformation out there about how to deal with low blood sugars. People are choosing the wrong kind of foods, the wrong quantities. They're just waiting for their CGM to get to normal, and they keep eating until that happens.
Right.
Yeah, it takes a lot of re-education to get people to do things right. Justin, are there any particular challenges you faced in developing DiabeTech?
Yeah, I think that in many ways I have some people editing for me, but it's kind of like a one-man band in the sense that I'm the one that's growing the business and putting out all this content. And I think it's so easy for me to get wrapped up in that and just push out content, but then not like take a minute to just look at like everything and look at the data and figure out what's working and what's not. And, I think I could be doing that more often and just see if areas that I'm spending my time are necessary, or can I kill two birds with one stone? Oh, I don't want to kill a bird. That's so sad. Is that what it is? I don't want to kill a bird. The hardest thing is me getting so wrapped up in what I'm doing and not taking the time to reflect on how areas are performing is one thing that I constantly struggle with. But it's so important to do that.
Well, as someone who I don't pretend to know squat when it comes to the business side of podcasting, how does a podcast make money? How do you make ends meet?
Advertising is or sponsored episodes, I guess. You can have ingrained ads that are that play, well, that you get like a sponsor of the show directly. And then the other way is through just like ads that are played through the platformer. So like YouTube ads. YouTube will insert ads as well through their partner program.
So you just can't survive you can't survive purely on gummy samples and infusion sets and call it a day. Product samples.
No. Add money.
Add money. I hear you. So Justin, is there any advice that you would give to anyone in the diabetes world who's looking to start their own business?
I think what I like about the way I went was that it was more of a side project. It never felt like this huge to do. It was never like, oh my goodness, I have like these long lists of things. It was kind of just like, oh, let me just, and it works differently with every business, right? But I think in many ways you can continue to do what you're doing, have your full-time job or whatever that is, and brainstorm, put one thing out, ask for feedback and grow in that way. That's kind of how I started. I had a TikTok at first where I put one video up, and it never felt like this overwhelming thing where in the past projects I had done, I would give myself 10 videos to make and then I'd freak out. Now it was like, let me put up a video. Oh, next week, another video, like one video a week. And then, let me have an Instagram, right? Let me get a YouTube channel. It was a slow build. And I guess I was able to reflect more, when I was doing less. I think it's about just doing it, but doing it slowly and in a way that's not overwhelming you, because you're not going to get something done if you give yourself an entire plate of things to do. It's just kind of doing little things at a time, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and growing at a pace that works for you. And then maybe it can take over what you're doing at that time.
Great advice. Naomi, what would your advice be to anyone thinking of starting a business in this space?
I have a few things. I actually recently was doing this kind of exercise for something else, so I had a little bit of a list, but I would say do a market study early to kind of prove out your thesis. Like, I felt pretty confident that there were pain points with low blood sugar, and I didn't know if I necessarily needed to run that to the ground, but I did a market study just of like 80 people in my network that had type 1, and it was incredibly helpful. And you'll always learn something from asking open-ended questions, and who knows what you could get back from it. I found that really helpful. I would say also lean into free resources. I did a lot of, hey, I'm going to email these lawyers. Can I get on a quick 30-minute consultation call and ask my key questions and try and get some stuff out of them before going and spending like a massive amount on legal bills, because all of those types of calls can obviously add up really quickly. And there are ways to get free resources early on to give you just enough to make bigger decisions that will have a pretty big economic impact. ChatGPT, relatively free, and has been a massive help to me, and from, things that I never always would have guessed it would be helpful with, but definitely a good resource and just something to easily bounce ideas off of, honestly, and always available.
I went to the Small Business Administration early on in developing my practice, and they sent me some experienced business people to give me some advice. Most of them were about 30 or 40 years older than me, and they were laughing at how I was doing my bookkeeping. It was all on paper. And when some guy twice your age tells you you're not tech savvy enough, you take that to heart. the Wharton School of Business I was able to go to. They do small business consulting. And now I've got an intern. She has us doing it's called a SWOT analysis. And we're using that to try to, figure out how to position our practice in the marketplace. So I hear you loud and clear. A lot of good resources out there.
Yeah, totally. And you can get a lot out of them. And even interns, as you say, a free intern or an unpaid internship, or just like having people help out for the summer or whatever, I think goes a long way, especially when you're just starting out early. And then the last one I was going to say, which someone else told me, is that take mistakes as a blessing or like a gift, and learn from them and know that you'll never make them again. There will be setbacks, so just take them as they come, learn from them, and keep going.
Yeah, I always thought that was such a pile of crap. Your mistakes are your greatest asset. And then one of my heroes from movie fame, Yoda, he has this great quote. The quote is, "The greatest teacher failure is."
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot to learn from that. If Yoda buys in, hey, maybe I'll buy in too.
Right.
Yeah, so we are part of a community, and I think we can also draw on each other's expertise. You can speak with other people who have small businesses already, whether they've succeeded or not. You can learn a lot from them. I do that now with nurses and dietitians and physicians that are trying to start up their own practices, and talking to them about what's worked and what hasn't worked for me. Again, you learn a lot more from the failures than you do from the successes. It keeps them from investing their resources in all the wrong places. But yeah, we are a community. I think that's one of the special things about this type 1 space, is people are always willing to help each other and support each other. I even find direct competitors in this space are willing to do that, because it's for the good of people with diabetes, and it's good for all of the quality of life of all of us. And like you both said, it's quality of life that really matters. That's why we're doing what we do. Both of you made mention about the importance of balance in life, and trying not to become too diabetes centric, and setting boundaries so that that's less likely to happen. I think it's a brilliant suggestion. Having diabetes in and of itself gives us some very unique skills and abilities. It's not just the connections we make and the networking we do, but the resilience that we develop, the ability to multitask, and the passion I think that we have for treating this condition, and for the people that we care about who also suffer from it. And as far as the challenges go, small businesses, it's difficult to be successful. Consider starting it out as a side hustle, a side business, not your main thing where you're dependent on it. Take your time with it, utilize the resources that are out there as a way to ultimately succeed. Whether you're making barbecue glucose tabs, or creating a whole new social media outlet, or creating the next great adhesive remover. There's always opportunities. So I want to thank both of you very much for taking your valuable time, and taking your time to talk more about diabetes related stuff, which I know is not the thing you want to be doing at this very moment. But it's going to be helpful, I think, to a lot of our podcast listeners and our friends out there. Naomi and Justin, thank you so much. And the information about Glow Glucose Gummies, as well as DiabeTech, will be up in our show notes. So I want to remind everybody to keep thinking like a pancreas. I'm Gary Scheiner.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, is brought to you by Integrated Diabetes Services, where experience meets expertise, passion meets compassion, and diabetes care is personal because we live it too. Our team of clinicians, all living with type 1 diabetes, understands the challenges firsthand. We're here to help no matter where you are in the world. From glucose management to self-care strategies, the latest tech, sports and exercise, weight loss, type 1 pregnancy, and emotional well-being, we've got you covered. We offer consultations in English and Spanish via phone, video chat, email, and text. Want to learn more? Visit integrateddiabetes.com or email info@integrateddiabetes.com to schedule a consultation. On behalf of Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, I'm Gary Scheiner, wishing you a fantastic week ahead. And don't forget to think like a pancreas.